I did a talk on the immune system. I think it was a few weeks ago now. And I got some great questions about it. And I had a good friend of mine actually reach out and had sent me some stuff, and I listened to it and it got my brain thinking. And then I was reading, where's my book? I've been reading this book called The Disease Delusion. It's by Dr. Jeffrey S. Bland. It says, Conquering the Causes of Chronic Illness for a Healthier, Longer, and Happier Life. So anyone that's known me or that has listened to anything that I have done as far as the presentations I've done knows that most of my life I have dealt with chronic illness, and thankfully, and a large part in large part due to being presented with the products that you hear about in this group as well, I have started on a path of managing all of that and doing all of it in a much more natural way, and something that I never even knew was possible. Okay. My background is in healthcare, and I still didn't know that this is the path that was potentially available, and it is available for anyone and everyone. Okay. So what I wanted to get on and talk about today is first our defense system, which is our immune system. And then I'm going to talk just a little bit. I'm going to start it today. I'm going to give you the meat of it, but there's more research that I'm doing, and once I'm done, I will come back and give you more on the gut immune system connection. Okay? It's been fascinating, absolutely fascinating. You've heard us talk about the gut brain connection. You've probably heard about the gut skin connection, and it's because of the interconnectedness of these systems that there are these connections. Okay. But first, we're going to start with our defense system. Okay. So I am going off of notes, and much of all of what I'm going to talk about today is from this book, but it really just struck me in the things that it said. So one of the questions that came up was, can we actually boost our immune system? And is it necessarily safe to boost your immune system for everyone? Now, you will see out in marketing, immune boosters are everywhere, right? But if you think about it, how are you doing that? Why are you doing it? And honestly, if you are someone with an autoimmune diagnosis of any sort, boosting it is not what you need to do. You actually need to downregulate it. And so it's more about improving the efficiency of the system itself. So the immune system is interconnected with the body's other core processes, as well as with the external environment. Okay, so your environment influences your immune system. An imbalance then in the immune system can lead to chronic illness because of all of these connections. Okay. The genetics of any autoimmune disease can actually only explain 30% of where it came from. So I am very passionate about, you need to get to the root cause. We can't continue to medicate symptoms without knowing why those symptoms are presenting themselves. I fell victim to this in a horrible, awful way, and was in a very low spot for a very long time, until I myself got the mental capacity to be like, there has to be something different. There's got to be more. This is not how I am living the rest of my life. Okay. So that became really, really important for me. Okay. And I just want to make sure, I realized I had pulled up the comments, but then I hit it when I pulled up my notes. So I want to make sure. Hi. Okay, good. Amen. Root cause so important. Absolutely. Okay. So now I can see comments too. I want to make sure I'm responding to you guys as well. Okay. All right. So, but a lot of times when it comes to not just autoimmune, but just diagnoses in general, people will say, well, it's genetic. My mother had this, my grandmother had it, it runs in the family. I can't escape it. It's genetic. But what they're actually finding in the research is that genes can, yes, increase your susceptibility to a disease. Okay. The example that was thrown out was celiacs. So you can be more susceptible to developing celiacs, but the individuals carrying those genes in their book of life won't actually experience that disease. And I'm going to step back from celiacs because I don't want to get too specific, but heart disease in general has been said to be genetic. Okay. There are neurodegenerative disorders that have strong genetic correlations. Okay. That's my expertise. That's where I worked. Okay. But it is a combination of the genes that increase your susceptibility as well as the exposure to your lifestyle, to your diet, and to your environment. Okay. You can also, and when I say exposure to chemicals, exposure to certain medications. It is not hardwired in your genes that just because your grandmother had heart disease that you're going to have it, or that your great grandfather had asthma, so you're going to have it. It's not hardwired, but so it's not inevitable. It can be modified. Now, there are a few autoimmune disorders that are genetically, like you have that gene, you're going to have something. So those are the rare minuscule exception. Okay. So I'm not downplaying those. There are a few, but the grand majority of diagnoses diseases, while genes play a role in susceptibility, it does not hardwire you that that's what's going to happen. Okay. By altering the environment, diet, and lifestyle that influence the expression of genes that regulate our immune system, we can end, reverse, and avoid the injury that leads to chronic illness. Okay. What's important to note, though, and this is where I'm going to talk a little bit more today, is that half of your body's immune system is found in your gut or your gastrointestinal tract, your GI tract. Okay. It's also found in your lymph system. And most prominently, when we think of our lymph system, we think of our neck and our armpits and our groins, those places where, if you ever feel sick, oh, does this feel swollen? That's because that's where your lymph system is. Okay. So you're actually checking to see it has it swollen, and the swelling is a response of increased activation of the cells. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the cells today. I am going to go a little sciencey on you, but I really want you to understand this. Okay. So we have white blood cells. Okay. And there's two forces of white blood cells. We have T cells, which are what engage in your hand-to-hand combat. So T cells are released to fight the viruses, the bacteria, anything that's right there, they're going to fight it. Okay. It's an immediate response to something foreign in the body. Okay. And then we have B cells, and B cells are more like, think of like the Air Force. Okay. They seek and destroy. Okay. Our tolerance to what we are exposed to in our lifetime is controlled by our B cells. So think of allergies, right? If B cells are what are neutralizing toxins, they do have a lot to do with allergic reactions. Okay. If your B cells are suboptimal, you are more likely to have an allergic reaction because they're not able to seek and destroy that which is coming into the body. A low level of immune activity goes on pretty routinely with damaged cells or molecules. So if the other side of this is that, so search and destroy is underactive, you're going to have a reaction. When search and destroy is overactive, it starts to affect healthy tissue, and healthy tissue next door begins to suffer from bystander injury. Okay. I want to make another connection between that autoimmune component, because this was a really big thing. Are people who have autoimmune disorders supposed to do anything for their immune system, or is it that they need to not focus on their immune system because it's already overactive? No, you need to improve the regulation of it. Okay. So you have chromosome 6 is the specific gene for the immune system response. There are 140 of the 2,000 genes that of this chromosome that constitute your complex of immune system. I'm going to call that because the other word is, it's okay. But on that same chromosome are genes for the autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, celiac, and ankylosing spondylitis, and Hashimoto's, which is your alternating where you go hypo, hyper, hypo, hyper in your thyroid function. Okay, so chromosome 6 regulates the genes for the immune system, but it also has the genes for these autoimmune diseases. That's not coincidental, okay? But what I said before was that the genes do not make it inevitable. It increases the susceptibility. So those who go on to develop some of these autoimmune diseases likely also have altered chemistry in their immune system because those genes were exposed to the same diet, lifestyle, and chemicals or anything else, and that's where it's coming from, okay? So how do you modulate or affect your immune system function? There are specific nutrients that play an important role in supporting the balance of your immune system, and this is the good stuff, right? So if you are deficient in any of the following, okay, and I'm actually going to type this in the comments. So deficient in the following will alter your T and B cell function. And what do we say? T and B cell function, they have to work in balance. If they are off balance, you're going to have less hand-to-hand combat and more search and destroy, or you're going to have too much search and destroy affecting healthy tissue on as innocent bystanders and not enough hand-to-hand combat, which is why it gets out and spreads to the whole body, okay? The nutrients that affect this, okay, are zinc. I don't know if maybe it's just me because I've been really looking into nutrition. I've heard a lot more about zinc recently. Zinc is one of those minerals, though, that when you are looking for it, you want it to be a chelated form because the body has a hard time absorbing zinc. When it's chelated, it is more available for the body to utilize where it's needed. So chelated zinc, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin A. What I will tell you right now is you should really avoid vitamin A when it is in the form of palmitate. You want a vitamin A source that is natural. Vitamin A is naturally found most prominently in mushrooms and in cod liver oil. I like that. I like saying that, but I'm like, ugh, the sound of ingesting that. Okay. B vitamins, especially folic acid and fermented B vitamins, are some of the most bioavailable forms of B vitamins. Okay. Iron, which if you can assist your body in producing iron naturally, it is going to be better received than an iron supplement of itself. Again, it's a hard mineral. It's difficult for the body to digest it. So increasing the body's natural iron production is ideal. And that actually is assisted by copper, which is the next nutrient that is discussed. And copper should also be chelated, okay? Amino acids, specifically L-lysine and L-arginine. L-arginine is actually our precursor to nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator within the body as well as a neuroprotective element in our brain, okay? And then vitamins C and E. This is what I love so much is this book actually discusses the benefit, in addition to other research that I've looked into, of tocotrienol vitamin E over the most prominently known is tocopherol. Tocotrienol vitamin E is 40 to 60 times more potent, and it is the best form of vitamin E that you can use as a supplement, okay? So, and then vitamin C, again, vitamin C can occur naturally as ascorbic acid. However, if your vitamin or your supplement does not indicate where the vitamin C is sourced from, it is likely synthetic, and you should find a new one that is actually from food, because the synthetics just aren't, that's exposure to a chemical, okay? Then there are phytonutrients, and phytonutrients are things found in plants, okay, that keep the immune system thermostat. Again, it's not that it's boosting it, it's not that it's necessarily down regulating it. It's helping to maintain the balance of our immune system. And these are blueberries, cranberries, garlic, pomegranate, and echinacea. Okay, so those are the other phytonutrients that you should be looking at. The most powerful of all those nutrients that I just talked about, is vitamin C. And there has been some extensive research on this. It is needed daily at levels significantly greater than what has typically been recommended. And the reason for that is that the recommended daily allowance is based on an average person. Okay. But that average person doesn't really exist very much. If an average person would be having a balanced diet every day, a certain level of sun exposure, many things that the average person today doesn't get. Okay. We are unable to produce this vitamin in our liver, whereas some animals, such as goats, that's where they produce it. Goats, because they can produce it in their liver, they produce 1,000 milligrams per day. And if they are under stress or illness, they will produce up to 10,000 milligrams. So the max dosing for us as humans should be 1,000 milligrams. But if we are ill, if we are fighting a virus, the turnover of that vitamin is going to be greater. And so a bigger oral dose may be required. It has the single greatest impact on immune function than any other single nutrient. Okay. Nutrients can influence gene expression and cellular function so that they can be biologically alternatives to drugs. So you could be using vitamin C to help regulate your immune system better than a drug could when taken in the appropriate amounts and when taken in the appropriate form. Okay. The other top nutrients. So I know I gave some I listed out those that if you are deficient in would cause issues with your T and B cell function. But now what I'm going to list out is the nutrients that will assist in optimal functioning. Okay, so eating these, having these as a part of your regular diet is what's going to give you optimal immune system function, whether that is that you need to downregulate it or you need to upregulate it or whatever it is, you need to bring balance. The top one was vitamin C. The next on the list is vitamin E Tocotrienols. These increase the B cell response. So take that and think about it. If you are someone who's ever had your B cell, T cell function measured, which I always recommend that if you can get lab work done to check, it is highly valuable. If you don't need increased B cell, then you may be okay without needing to add a vitamin E supplement. Okay. I will tell you though, our Renew product is vitamin E tocotrienols, and it is one of the most potent form. It is the most potent form of tocotrienol. It comes from the annatto plant. It is plant-based, and that is something that I would highly recommend for anyone that is looking for immune system balance. In addition to our Fortify, which is vitamin C from acerola cherries and other great phytonutrients, which I just talked about. Okay, the next nutrient that is discussed for optimal system functioning is vitamin D. Interestingly enough, vitamin D isn't actually a true vitamin. It is a precursor of a hormone, and it is converted from the vitamin to that hormone in our liver and our kidney by a very specific enzyme. And the reason that it is a central player to immune system function is because it controls the expression of genes that regulate the immune system. So it's giving information to the system and telling the genes what it needs to do. Okay. The normal value should be more than 30, what are called nanomoles per liter. If you've ever had your vitamin D run, you've seen that. Okay. But in the world of functional medicine, their recommendation is a minimum of 2,000 IU per day. And the reason for this is that we have an overall reduced time outside. We have an increased use of sun blocking creams, and all of that affects our body's ability to produce vitamin D. There are also considerable genetic differences in how individuals manufacture and metabolize it. And so, if a person is known to have an imbalance in their immune system, at minimum, they should be taking 1,000 IU of D3 daily. D3 is our long acting form, D2 is the short acting. Our vitamin D support, which comes with vitamin K to help with absorption, is 1,000 IU of D3 and 1,000 IU of D2, which meets that recommendation of the 2,000 IU from a functional medicine perspective. Okay. The other source that is optimal, that is helpful for optimal immune system functioning, is our mushrooms. So mushrooms can actually be a source of vitamin A, which I already talked about, right? So there has actually been studies done by the NIH on the mushrooms' effect on cancer patients and those with HIV. So regular consumption of the white button mushroom is associated with reduced incidence of breast cancer, and it also activates the natural killer activities that are mediated by the T cells. So it helps to improve the functionality of your T cells specifically. They have a unique substance called a mucopolysaccharide. That substance sends messages to the T and B cells and helps to balance their messaging, helps to balance their function. Okay. Now, I talked about some inborn immune diseases. I'm not going to go over those, but there are some of those. And if you know that you are someone who has one, actually, I'll throw them out there. A gamma globulinemia, Shinya-Kagashi syndrome, congenital IgA deficiency, Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome, and those are the four. Those represent, though, and you probably have never heard of those. I had heard of the IgA deficiency, but it's because they represent such a small fraction of the total number of diseases that are associated with immune imbalance, okay? The majority of our chronic immune problems are a direct result of the impact of our environment and those messages on genetic expression. Now, I talked about how over half of our immune system resides in our gut. So I'm going to give you a brief chat on gut and immunity, okay? On one side of your GI tract, you have microvilli, and those are responsible for the absorption of nutrients. It pulls nutrients from the foods you're eating. On the other side is your immune system, okay? This monitors substances that are put into our body, okay? If it senses harm, if it senses something that's not good, it's going to increase alarm cells, and we're going to feel that first as pain, bloating, diarrhea, intestinal inflammation, all those icky things, okay? But as that alarm cell level increases, I realize I forgot my, there's comments again. Okay. Yes. Okay. As we, sorry, I lost my thought because I wanted to make sure I was keeping up with comments. Okay. So we first feel it as those kind of icky things, but then as those levels continue to elevate, we can feel it systemically. And that's where you start to have joint pain, headaches, bad breath, muscle pain, skin and vision problems, mood swings. Okay. The gut, along with having its own immune system, has its own nervous system. And so as these alarm cells are being distributed and increased, it starts to affect the nervous system. And then that begins to secrete hormones and neurotransmitters to communicate with the brain. One of those being the messenger serotonin, okay? When in a balanced state, most of your serotonin is made in your gut. But there are also other messengers that are excreted or distributed that come from the gut that are going to send signals about appetite, blood sugar, insulin, whether or not you feel full, your bone density, cardiovascular function, and of course, inflammation. So the channel between the gut and the rest of the body has so much information that it profoundly influences our physiology and our overall health. Okay. So bacteria in the gut can either be good or it can be bad. And there's specific cells that come from the liver that are actually of the same lineage of the GI immune system cells. No doubt of why that's connected, okay? You have to treat the immune inflammation response of the gut in order to treat the other systemic effects that are happening. One of the things brought up was leaky gut, okay? And leaky gut typically occurs after the consumption of foods that are high in fat and sugar, or following ingestion of caustic chemicals or food substances. So example being exposure to food allergens, infectious bacteria, viruses, yeast, drugs and alcohol, or harsh chemicals. If you are someone who knows that you have gut dysfunction, in the world of functional medicine, there is something called the 4 R's. Okay. And so this is what I'm going to end with today is the 4 R's. The first thing you need to do is you need to remove. You need to get rid of the food allergies and substances that produce that response. You need to stop eating those, stop taking them, get rid of them. Okay. That makes sense, right? During the removal, you actually also want to reduce your exposure to mold or fermented foods specifically. Okay. Then, after you've removed and you've calmed things down, you then go into a phase of replace. And this is where you're going to know if you need to go into replacement as far as if your stool, yes, I'm going to talk poop for a second. If your stool ever has undigested food in it, or you can tell that's kind of fatty, that means that the enzymes that are supposed to be working in your gut to help with digestion are not doing their job, or there's not enough of them. So you work to replace the enzymes, and you need to do that to improve digestion and absorption, and you take it before meals. Our digestive enzyme is one of the top on the market. Okay. This is our digestive enzyme. I was going to do the pudding demo today, and I don't have it right next to me. But if you want to know what the pudding demo is, it's where I would take one of these little pills, I'd open it up, I'd put it into a package of pudding, and I'd show you exactly what it does inside your body. It breaks it down to its smallest molecules to make it the easiest for your body to absorb. That's what your body's supposed to do on its own, but we are an enzyme deficient society, okay? You need these digestive enzymes in order to help your body break down the foods, and this is a key component of healing inflammation in the gut and thus improving your overall immune system function, okay? Then, and this does this too, you re-inoculate, which is what I mean by that is you're adding a pre and a probiotic supplement in order to help to replenish that good gut bacteria that was getting overtaken by bad bacteria because of the caustic chemicals and everything else. This comes with our prebiotic and food blend at 120 milligrams, as well as our probiotic blend at 1 billion CFO. And the dosing on this is 3 a day, so 1 prior to each meal for, again, a person without any issues. If you've got issues, I talk with whoever it brought you into this group, but the recommendation is typically to start off with more. The re-inoculation process recommends 2 billion CFU of probiotic, and that is more than what you're going to get more than that when taking this, which is okay. You can't overdo the good bacteria, especially if you've been depleted. Okay. And then you're going to go into repair, and repair is using those supplements that we talked about earlier in order to support the healing of the intestinal mucosal barrier. So anyone also that's been diagnosed with that leaky gut, repair is going to be super important. The nutrients, and these are ones that I can talk about I will talk about on another future Friday as I come in and talk about more of our products. But the nutrients here are zinc, pantothenic acid, which is also vitamin B5, omega-3 fish oils, L-glutamine, which is an amino acid, magnesium, and a vitamin B complex for a nutritional support. So the immune system itself is utterly fascinating. And in the world that we currently live, being discerning of the information coming at you as to what your immune system needs is really important. And it's more about knowing why your immune system is not doing or functioning or acting in the way that it should than it is about just arbitrarily taking a bunch of stuff to hope that your immunity is better. You'll see lots of recommendations out there about different ways to boost immunity. And I was so honored that someone asked the questions that they did, because it really made me go back and think more about it. And then again, as I was doing more research and I was specifically reading this book from a research standpoint, I came across so much more information. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that you found some of this interesting. I know it was a lot thrown at you. If you have any questions, please reach out to either myself or whoever has added you into this educational group. And I hope that everyone has a phenomenal, blessed weekend.